Now recorded. All right. Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us. I am Angelique Dufine, your humble Lansing HubSpot user group leader. We affectionately refer to the HubSpot user group as the Hug. So I am your Hug leader. We've got a really exciting and relevant topic to cover today. Gina, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, my name is Gina Nzunza. I'm the digital marketing manager at InVerve, and very excited about today's presentation and all about video.
All right, well, let's get this show started. We're going to start with an introduction. We've got the agenda that we're looking at right now. We're going to do a little bit of an icebreaker. We have swag, and then we're going to move on to the presentation. We've got about a 45-minute presentation for you, and then we have left a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, and we'll cover our next Hug topic as well. All right, so I actually have to stop sharing screen in order to share the link for swag, guys. It's in the chat. Check it out. Grab yourself some swag. All right. And now, without further ado, let's get to the main event, guys. InVerve Marketing has worked with Cold Box Films on numerous projects. They have an amazing eye for beautiful end products, but more importantly, they are great storytellers that break down complex concepts and make them enjoyable to watch videos. I'm so happy to be able to introduce partners we love working with, Cooper and Tracy Spalding. Take it away, guys.
Whoop. Yay.
I guess
Hello. So yes, my name's Cooper. I'm the owner of Cold Box Films, and this is Tracy.
Yep, my name's Tracy. I am not only Cooper's wife, but I also work as a writer and a producer here at Cold Box Films as well. So just a little bit about us. We are a Michigan-based commercial video production company. So what we do is we partner with brands to come alongside them and help them produce videos that look beautiful, that capture people's attention, and ultimately feed that brand's bottom line. You know, kind of the way we see it is that we live in this world of very oversaturated news feeds. There's a lot of demand for our attention these days. And so a lot of our clients are coming to us and they need ways that they can stand out. They need ways that they can tell more people about what it is that they do and get them interested. And then beyond that, what does it look like then to convert that viewer into a paying customer? And so we know, and I know you guys know it too, but video is one of the most powerful tools that you can leverage to really spark someone's curiosity about what your products are, and then thoughtfully lead them down that buyer's journey so they can become a paying customer. So, Coop, if you want to talk about why video is an effective marketing tool.
Yeah, so, people are such visual, we're visual beings. And so being able to see and hear something just allows you to immerse yourself so much more into it. And it really just holds people's attention a lot better than pretty much any other medium would. The other big thing with people is, we relate with story, and that's why we try to infuse so much story into it to just present something that you can relate to and that feels personal to you. So trying to evoke emotion through the use of story is definitely something we put a lot of thought and energy into.
Yeah, and video too is such a phenomenal way to explain a really complex topic, kind of even as Angelique was saying, but do it in an easily digestible way. Something we'll talk about a little bit further on in the presentation is, I like the phrase, if you confuse, you lose. People, when they're online, want to be able to digest information extremely quickly. We only have a couple of seconds of their attention span. So if we're overcomplicating the way that we are communicating information, someone's going to keep on swiping and we're not going to communicate anything at all. And so being able to leverage video as a medium to explain something is going to save you paragraphs upon paragraphs upon paragraphs of a web page explaining. People are skimmers these days. They don't want to read, so much information. And then kind of stemming on that, it's so much more powerful to be able to show rather than tell. It's one thing for you to say, we are really great at customer service, but what does that actually look like when we put it into practice? What is the facial expression of your team when they're working with their clients? What's the facial expression of your clients when you're working with them? So much of that showing is a great way to build trust with your audience, and that's where video becomes especially powerful.
And I think my last point, that's not a bullet here, but it can be used in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And that's the other cool thing. And that's what we're about to explore is kind of the use cases of it. But it can be used as a sales piece. It can be used as marketing and advertising. It can be used as training. Like there's so many different ways you can utilize it, which makes the investment in it that much more worth it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hop in with some statistics because I'm the marketing end of this thing. Why video? Why should we be using video? You guys covered just a little bit of it. We're starting to scratch the surface. There are so many statistics that float around these days about video. Everything points to video being an important part of a brand's marketing strategy. If you're not using video, you really need to get in the video game. Just a little bit more on statistics. If you're looking to engage with an audience on social media, for example, here's some stats right here for you. 93% of brands got a new customer because of video on social media. Video is overwhelmingly the way to engage with audiences on social media.
What would even be interesting to know is, I guess, tell us in the chat, how many of you have seen a product or something online, clicked the webpage specifically looking for a video about it? Because I feel like so many of us are anticipating that. Even throw it, say in the chat if that's something that you do, just so we can get a visual for how, because I know that that's something that I do all the time, and I know I'm not alone.
Well, the biggest thing, I go to a website, and frankly, I know someone spent a lot of time on that website copy, but I don't feel like reading it. I look for an about us video. I look for a quick, give me your 60-second pitch on what you do. So
yeah,
I know I do it.
I love it. We're even getting a few me. Yeah, absolutely. So like Cooper was saying, video, there's so many ways that you can use it inside your business. And so we felt like and that can get overwhelming. And the great thing is Angelique has some specific ideas later, and we've loaded this with ideas as well. So I think the best way to go about that conversation is talking about what are the best types of videos that you should be showing at each stage of that buyer's journey, from awareness to consideration and decision. What video content do you need to be putting in front of your audience? So let's go ahead and just kind of dive right into that. So stage one is the awareness stage. You want to talk about the goal?
Well, I was going to say, as far as what kind of video you make, honestly, the what the video is kind of secondary to the foremost question is, what are you trying to accomplish? And that's the first question we're always asking people is, what are you trying to accomplish with the creation of this? We don't want to make a video just for the sake of making ourselves feel good about, oh, we made something pretty. There needs to be a purpose for it. And so kind of the first one, if you're looking for just awareness, grabbing a customer's attention, making them aware of your product and service and spark their curiosity to learn more. That's a very normal goal that we're getting. And so that will then inform duration of the video, that will inform how you present the information, how much information you present, and really then can just give you an idea of what to actually create.
Yeah. So at this stage in the process, it's really important that we're creating content from the goal. So the goal of the awareness stage is we simply want to grab the customer's attention, make them aware of your product or service, and simply spark their curiosity. And so the best way to do this, what video you should put in front of them? Commercials. Content that is less than 60 seconds, sometimes even 30 seconds or 15 seconds, little bite-sized pieces to spark that curiosity. And so we've got a couple of examples that we wanted to show you guys of productions that we've shot, some that we've even done in tandem with InVerve, which is really cool.
I think most of them on here.
There might be the majority of work that we've done with InVerve, which is great. So before we kind of watch, one of the things that we wanted to say is your commercial should simply invite a potential customer into a story and give them a memorable feeling about your brand. That goes back to, why is video so powerful? Because it can make us feel something, and we remember how we feel. That's a powerful currency these days. And then simply inspire them to learn more. So if we want to pop up a few examples of what does a commercial look like.
This is a 60-second one. So your more standard commercial is probably going to be a 30 or a 15. But I'm so glad that they put an example of a longer format one in here to kind of get more of that storytelling. So we will watch some of it, probably not all of it. Oop. Does not want to play.
What does it take to be an exceptional lawyer? It takes heart, passion, Intellect. It starts with someone who's committed to doing the work, who refuses to settle for a curriculum of theory alone, but seeks practice strategies from those who have been there before. A great lawyer is willing to listen to perspectives that are different from their own. Someone whose voice is respected and influences the outlook of others. Someone who realizes that every case is a chance to make the world better, equal, and more just. But above all, it takes the right school to propel that some.
I'm going to stop us right about the halfway mark. One of the things I love about this video, because we did collaborate with Coldbox on this, is that you get these kind of characters and motifs throughout, and it really does tell that story without those characters ever having to utter a single word, because we've got a voiceover that's telling the story. So it's a really, really engaging piece and absolutely met the client's needs for what we were looking to do, which was to build their brand. Let's take a
What
look.
I really like is it gives you the chills. I mean, you get like, ooh, you actually feel the emotions that, when you're watching that video, and it grips you, holds your attention for sure.
And I mean, I feel like we could talk about each one of these videos. I mean, we have entire breakdown videos where we do this.
One thing I will say about that video is that the biggest, I'm glad you brought up characters, Gina, because what the client wanted to do was showcase confident, capable lawyers that are out in the field doing the thing that they love to do. And so what we wanted to do is reach more students who are considering law schools that want to see themselves in these characters. So we had to ask ourselves, what is it that these people want? What would make them feel fulfilled in a career? And how can we have that come across on screen, and then position this law school as the mechanism to do what you want to do? And so that was really key in that piece. So I'm glad it came through for sure.
By the way, we
right,
are
got another
giving everyone. Oh, I just want to make sure
Gina?
people know that I just want to make sure people know that we will be giving them links to see these, because it's not so great watching it via the presentation.
Yeah.
So later you'll have all these links.
The presentation and the recording will all be provided to attendees today. So don't feel like you have to jot anything down or screenshot stuff. We're just going to give it to you. All right. We've got another example, again, a partnership between InVerve and Coldbox, just patting our own backs. It's a 30-second. I will just play the whole thing.
What if we didn't have to miss out? What if we accepted the invitation instead of turning it down?
How are you guys? I'm good. How are you? Good. It's a big day.
What if we could be there for the moments that matter? What if we just listened to that voice that said, come on, let's go? For milestones that can't be missed, trust Indian Trails to get you there.
Do you guys have
Yep.
anything
So
you
very
wanted to add
short to the
that one?
point, weaving in a singular story there of, the characters kind of on their way to their family member's wedding. So again, our goal is to only spark curiosity. So keeping that message really, really simple is key. Awesome.
We'll go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep watching these?
Yeah. They all kind of have different flares to them.
Still waiting on slow banks to deposit your hard-earned money? Forget that. We offer next day deposit. So when your customers do this, your bank account does this. This is credit card processing done right. Make the switch.
Awesome. And then we have just one more example for you guys, because I wanted to show, there's so many forms that these videos could take place. So I wanted to show you kind of a wide variety. This next one, we don't have to watch the entire thing, but I felt like it was important to show because some of those other commercials feel really fancy and they have larger budgets. But this one was a format that we could deploy that could be extremely effective and also be really budget friendly, because we're not actually having to go on location and do any live action filming.
Central Michigan 219 911. My name is James. How can I help you today? My car broke down this morning. I'm worried I'm going to get fired if I can't get to work tonight.
My father, he has dementia. He needs groceries, but I can't leave him alone here.
I finally just got a new job, but they won't let me start until I get a pair of steel-toed boots.
My mom lost her job, and her lights got turned off today. Can you help?
I'm going to stop it there just because it's a little bit longer. So,
Yep. So as
like-
you can
like
see,
we've kind of
a little bit more of a simplified. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, there's a reason I call you guys great storytellers. And even when you're not using true video clips to do it, you're still telling a really beautiful story.
Mhm.
Exactly. And honestly, with that, it's like this was great. I mean, this is a nonprofit organization. They're not going to have a $30,000 budget to apply to video, but they still need a really powerful way to make more people aware that the 211 hotline exists, and then also how can that be used. And so being able to introduce the actual like phone calls from people or recreating that in some form adds that humanistic element, and then pairing that with even some stock imagery that doesn't feel so stock allowed us to communicate a very powerful story-driven message, but keep the budget very, very modest and still very, very powerful.
And we did actually record those. So those were actually scripted, and we actually recorded them within their phone system. So
Yep.
it sounded and felt very
Authentic.
real and authentic. Yeah.
So those are just some examples. So moving on. So how can we make sure that these videos are really effective? And we've touched on this a little bit as we've been seeing some of the examples. But the number one thing is, remember, your goal is to just spark curiosity. So you have to keep these videos short, and you have to keep the messaging very simple. One of the things that our clients actually struggle with the most is they get very excited about video, and then they want to jam pack the video with all the information about their brand. And the truth is that's just not what your customer cares about in this stage. You have not bought that. You've not earned that from them yet. And so you have to honor that. And so just focus your messaging on communicating what problem you solve and how life is improved for your customer as a result of that solution. The intricacies of how you solve the problem, or what customers say about your product and service, or any other thing, you can share those further along in the buyer's journey when you've earned that, after you've earned spark their curiosity to get them to click to the link to learn more. So don't feel like you have to jam pack that in the commercial. That's honestly only going to hurt you, because it's going to make that duration longer. You're going to overwhelm them with information, and they're going to keep scrolling.
Well, and I think that's actually a valuable thing that we bring to our projects is, the clients we're working with are experts in what they do, but they're in it every single day. And sometimes that can begin to fog your vision of how to present it. And so a lot of times, a big part of our process is learning as much as possible about that company, so then that we as kind of a third party can help them break it down and distill it down into its simplest form to keep it simple so people can just understand it quickly. And that was with the United Way one. That was a great case of it. It's like that program did so much. They've implemented in so many different ways. It's such a vast thing. And they're like, nobody knows what it is. Nobody understands it. And so it's even more challenging in that case to be like, you really need to explain this with words, and you need to do it in short sentences, and you need to be to the point. And so we were able to really break it down to its core and explain it at its simplest form without getting too frivolous on all the details.
And notice that video doesn't talk about any of their other programs. They've got tons of different programs for people. We don't talk about the Alice program. We don't talk about, the shared housing initiative. We keep it simple to just the 211 hotline, because if we start bogging down with more information, we're going to lose people. So just remember that your viewer wants to work as little as possible to comprehend your message. So overloading them with information is a surefire way to confuse them and disengage them from your content. So the more that you can latch on to simple storyline, simplicity, it's going to be more effective. And then I think the next and last point about how to make these videos effective. And this is the biggest thing with all of your content, is you have to make your customer the hero of the story. It's really tempting for brands to want to shine the spotlight on themselves, especially brands that have been around for 50 years, 20 years. But that's not what your customers are interested in. They're interested in their problems, their story. And so you're going to have a lot more success telling that than you are saying, we've been around for 50 years and we've got a great reputation. And it's just, people just don't care about that. And so instead, build your story around your customer. And what that looks like is developing storylines that reflect their pain points, their lives, and situations
and their hopes and dreams.
Yep, in situations they can easily identify with. So a great example is that Cooley Law School commercial. We could have sat there and talked all day long about Cooley's credentials, their curriculum, their programs, their professors, but that is not what we anchored the story on at all, because at that stage in the process, what people are interested in is, can you get me to where I want to go? And so being able to speak into, oh, that is where I want to go. I do want to help, wrongfully convicted individuals, or, oh, I do want to do this, sparking that connection point and seeing a character in the video that represents you is even science. I wish I would have pulled the stat on this, but science even tells us that it's more likely someone's going to do what you're asking them to do, click the link, go take that next step, if they can identify with the story and establish character identification with those individuals. So yeah.
I think we're on to the next.
So moving on to the next stage, I think, in the process. So stage 2 is consideration. You want to talk about the goal? So
really, what we said the goal for this one is just make customers more informed about your product or service and position yourself as an ideal avenue to solve that problem. So at this point, they've gotten hooked, they're interested in your company, and they're ready to be fed a little bit more to kind of help them make their decision. So as far as what types of videos these could look like, this is when you bring in customer testimonials. This is when you have product demos. This is when you might have a slightly longer form brand manifesto to, help them understand your, like your values and what you stand for as a company, or a service explainer video to kind of get into the weeds a little bit more. This is really just kind of taking that relationship one step further.
It takes it one step further and it explains the how a little bit. So we can digest a little bit more information to really understand the product and service, and then of course move on to that next stage of decision. So we have just a couple of examples of what those videos could look like in the next slide. So your next piece of content should really allow viewers to get to know your brand and your products more and move them along in that buyer's journey. And you'll notice as they move along in that journey, they're going to be willing to watch videos that are a little bit longer. You're going to earn more of their attention and time. So this first example is a customer testimonial kind of wrapped within a case study. So it highlights a specific project that this construction company did for a client. It's still pretty short in terms of like that type of content. It lands around 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We won't watch the whole thing, but I think this is a really great example of what that customer testimonial could look like at this stage. Oh, I don't know if the sound is working.
There's no audio. Angelique, there's no audio.
Because I was muted.
Small detail.
Here at ML Chartier, we are all about working with the customer because we want to provide them with a great end result. My role at ML Chartier is I'm in charge of sales on the private end of things, which includes Michigan Sugar. We started this particular project around August 25th, and they needed a working piling ground by October 16th.
That was a lofty task. Our time frame really shrank, and that was another big factor of hiring Chartier, where they gave us a timeline on what they could produce on.
We knew in our heart of hearts that we could go in there and take care of it and give the customer Michigan Sugar a great finished product. Our budget on this particular project was $3.1 million. So some of the services that we offered on this particular project was site development, earthwork, utilities, installed underground piping, demolition, heighter excavation. We kind of are one-stop shopping on this project. If you can provide them turnkey services from start to finish, that's going to make us very, very appealing.
Basically.
I think that gives the idea.
Awesome.
So what was great about that one is, it's one thing for a company to say, hey, we do this, this, and this, but it's another for you to actually show it in action. And so that was what was kind of interesting about that piece is we were able to weave in a customer testimonial to say, this is what I needed. They came through, but we also were able to give them a platform to talk about what they do while also showing you it in action as opposed to it just being in theory.
Yeah, these are kind of working in tandem, right? It's a little bit more of a service explainer because we're understanding what were the services that were rendered for this particular client, along with a customer testimonial by saying it was really great to work with them. They got the job done on time and on budget. So we hit those key points that we knew that future customers would be interested in. And it comes across in a more genuine way because we have the social proof of having talked with the client, and so they could back up some of the things that the company was saying. And
we're really trying to keep in mind who the audience is, and that it is, some foreman or someone at one of these larger companies. So it's like if you put your mind, head in their mindset, what are you looking for? Well, you're going to be thinking about budgets. You're going to be thinking about timelines. You're going to be thinking about manpower and resources. So that information is very intentional. We put the budget there for a reason. So someone of that level is going to recognize, oh, that's a reasonable price for what they're doing. And so it definitely is very intentional about what we're sharing and how we're presenting it.
Awesome. So this next example is an explainer video for a company that sells cybersecurity products. So this particular one, this is a great example of explaining something that's highly complex in an easily digestible way. A lot of us are familiar with sort of these animated explainer videos. The one cool thing about this is it's very not stock. We did everything custom. So we created all of these custom assets to tie in with the client's brand. So if they were launching a campaign that, we have our awareness video, this next video being so branded to them is really key of creating that visual cohesiveness, which we can even talk about a little bit later too.
It's easy to ignore a threat you can't see. And while you might think you're not big enough to be targeted by cyber attacks, security engineers like us see it happen to companies like yours all the time. All it takes is a single innocent click, and boom. Ransomware infiltrates your device, locks you out of your files, shuts down productivity, and effectively cuts off your revenue stream within seconds. Now you get to go to the dark web to purchase Bitcoin, and that's not the end of it. Their tactics are simple. They strike often, and companies who fall for it can end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars digging themselves out of the mess. We don't want you to be another victim. And that's why we developed our Detect and Respond cybersecurity protection. Detect and Respond recognizes the actions and characteristics of malware or ransomware and stops it from running immediately.
Awesome.
So what was interesting about that one was I don't want to spend too much time talking about these, but ASK came to us and they literally had a screen recording of what it looks like when your computer is being shut down and being infiltrated. And it was really stale and very boring. And they were like, yeah, but look how cool this is. People will really relate to it. And we're like, I know you find this cool, but I don't really care. And so what we had the thought is how can we infuse this idea of that happening, elevate it a bit, infuse some story, but still keep it grounded enough. So even the OS of Microsoft, that wasn't actual screen recording. We actually designed that from scratch because we wanted to simplify it. We didn't want it to be exactly branded towards that. But, just having some of those little, still more relatable things of, the activity monitor and icons locking, that's real. That's not being fictitious. But then obviously kind of the back end scene of what the malware looks like, that's where you can kind of elevate it and make it a little bit more interesting.
And keeping in mind too, even though this is an animated explainer video, we had characters in this piece. So the malware is a character in our story. Detect and Respond, the product being that kind of target, is a character in the story. And so that was something that even in the creative decks, we had a whole slide of who are our characters here. And
even a lot of thought went into the voiceover. We wanted the voiceover to sound, again, because originally it was presented as here's a screen recording of this happening. We still wanted to kind of keep that feel to it. So the voiceover we casted, we really wanted to feel like you would believe that is a computer engineer who does this stuff on the back end. It's not just some random stock voiceover artist you found online. This feels like one personalized to the brand that's a part of the team that's presenting this information that you actually buy into as the person telling you about this.
Yeah, it needed to represent an IT person that could work for a different organization, because while ASK works direct to client, they also work a lot with the internal team at some of these other organizations. And so this piece of content really needed to resonate with them.
But I think what you can take from this really is, you can be handed, you might have a simple thing that you're trying to get across, but there's so many other things of story and voiceover and elements you can infuse to really just elevate it and make it more understandable and more relatable.
Awesome. So let's talk about how to make these videos really effective. And so we touched on this a little bit, but at this stage, it's really important to build trust through social proof. Like Cooper was saying, it's one thing for your brand to say how great you are, but it's even more powerful when your customers can back that up and say the same thing. That's why whenever you're hanging out on a sales page, you're always going to see a stretch of reviews and testimonials, and you're reading all this great information, but you need that assurance from other people just like you who have gone through it. So infusing that in your video content is really important. And then the other thing is presenting case studies or customer testimonials that show potential customers what they can expect and the success that you've achieved for someone like them is a compelling way to build their trust or to win their trust and just advance them to that next stage in the buyer's journey.
And one part that's really nice about case studies is it allows you to kind of give some of those value points that people might not know exist in your process.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of times what you're trying to accomplish may seem big and daunting. So to see someone show it to you precisely in a quick manner to show how simple it is and how they take care of it, does a lot for someone who's looking to use your service.
And pulling out, like if you're doing a talking head style video, like the construction company, pulling out those key informations in pull graphics to just further cement that for the viewer is going to be really key. So the second thing is when you're thinking about what video content to create at this stage for you, it's really start thinking about how to build your videos around the sales conversations that you're already having. So even if you haven't done this, sit down and map out what does that process look like from A to Z, from when you first get the lead in to when you sign them as a customer. What are the conversations that you're happening and how can you use video to complement those conversations? Not necessarily to replace them, but how can you complement the conversation with that? So,
which would be something that I know Angelique and her team at InVerve would be able to help with as well.
Absolutely. So, by thinking about some of those conversations you're already having, you can easily see where you can deploy video to add to that and be that next touch point. So perhaps does that video show up in your follow-up email of, hey, it was a really great discovery call earlier. I'm linking a video below that showcases a project that we did that's similar to yours. Take a look. And
the thing is, people think video is only used to just post on your Facebook or YouTube. Like there's so many more ways to use it, whether you're opening up a meeting with a 30-second video to get them excited about your services, whether it's a follow-up email after a great call, like Tracy said, with a video to kind of take that step a bit further. And I know they say in like the marketing or like the sales funnel, how many touch points you need with a customer, what is it, 5 or 6 or 7? I know it's changing all the time, but video can be one of those touch points as a great excuse to follow up, provide some value, and just give them a reason to continue to kind of court you and get to know your company a bit more.
Well, what's great is when you link that in that email, it shows up really nicely at the bottom and looks really tempting to click. So where these videos are showing up is they could be on a web page, they could be in an email, they could be, on your social media. So it's something to kind of continue with them along in that journey.
Well, and
so the
at
next
the end of this
stage
presentation, a whole laundry list of ways that people can use video. But I just wanted to say you can use video for more than one touch point, right? Like if you want to have 6 interactions with a customer to try and close them, half of those might be video.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next phase of the buyer's journey and the final most important phase is that decision. And so the goal at this point is we want to win the customer over and we want to convert them into a paying client. So at this stage, they're willing to give us more of their time. So videos in that 2 to 5+ minute range are perfectly fine. And what that could look like is that could be brand culture content. It could be more in-depth product demonstrations, more in-depth case studies, an educational webinar that they might attend, or like a frequently asked questions video, which we highly encourage a lot of brands a lot, because, you know, in that stage, we'll even show one example. If someone's ready to pull the trigger and work with you, they're going to have a list of questions in their mind, and that's going to be really consistent with pretty much every customer that comes through your door. So what's a video that you can create that would just answer those questions right up front and kind of eliminate that barrier to entry? So with these videos, they should really just address those last bits of information your customer needs to know so they can confidently move forward. So in this first video, this is that frequently asked questions video like I was talking about. And so in this video, remember we saw that commercial in the beginning of that clock being smashed, and we're promoting credit card processing. So that would be something that we had more in the awareness stage. And then as they move to the maybe consideration, but more decision phase, we want to present them with this video. So when we worked with this client, they said, it's such a pain. People think it's such a pain to switch credit card processors. It's going to disrupt their kind of like point of sale, and they don't want to do it. We're really worried. And so we're like, okay, well, let's create a video and talk about how it's incredibly easy to switch and how you do that. And so this video just includes some frequently asked questions to sort of like ease that, you know, worry for customers and eliminate that barrier to entry.
Switching to a new credit card processor is a lot easier than you'd think, and we make sure your process is a breeze. So if you're wondering, how long will it take me to get set up, or how much will this cost? I'm here to answer your questions so that you can see just how easy we make it for you. So how do I get started? Your onboarding process is broken down into 4 simple steps. The first step is the discovery appointment, and that's just where we get to know you, your business, and your unique needs. The second step is the comparative analysis, and that's where we take a look at all of the factors to ensure you get the best pricing possible. Step 3 is the application, and that's just where we help you get the account set up. And step 4 is to train and install, and that's where we set up and walk you through all the ins and outs of your new system so you can start making transactions immediately. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, how long will it take me to get set up? Most accounts are set up in 40 hours after you submit your.
So notice the language in that video is talking about how easy it is to get set up, how we make it a breeze. We even tease a couple of questions in the very beginning of the video, so that way we can hook someone so they know that we're going to answer their question later on.
And so from a video production standpoint, we're still trying to, you know, this is a very simple talking head. But, you know, we tried to make it a little bit more interesting with having it move around, having some scale changes, having those graphics come on. So yes, this isn't the most, you know, sexy, hot, big commercial, but there's still ways to try and keep it interesting. So it's not just one person sitting there talking to you the entire time.
And the other really, really important part is this piece of content was visually cohesive with the entire campaign that we run. I know we just showed you the one, you know, 20-second video of the clock smash, but there was also 5 other videos like that and a main video. So this was an entire marketing campaign. Yep, and we'll show you the whole visual of it, because that's a really great example of what it looks like to deploy kind of all forms of video in that process.
So the yellow isn't random.
No, the yellow is not random. It's visually cohesive with the campaign, which is important because it creates that trust and consistency with your buyer that I'm on the right page, I'm with the right people, because if that video looked entirely different from the rest of the content, we're going to start to confuse people as well. And so if you want to explain this next video real quickly.
So this is a company that does pontoon restoration and a lot of boat work. So really this is an in-depth case study on a boat. So again, putting yourself in the shoes of someone who's looking to use their services. You love boats, you have one that you're looking to get restored, and you're just curious. Can these guys do what I want? Are they good at what they do? Are they knowledgeable? And the
last big question is, and this is the thing that the client really wanted people to know, is a lot of customers that are coming to them, they're considering, should I just buy a new boat or should I fix up the one I already have? And so the other big point we wanted to make in this content was you can save so much money fixing up your boat versus going out and buying a $50,000 or $70,000 new pontoon.
And so we intentionally, you'll notice this is a very on the run, hearing this is actually the guy doing the work. We're not looking for perfect, polished, perfect commercial. We want this to feel more relatable. We want this to feel more down to earth. So, not everything has to be that over the top, huge budget. Maybe you need it if what you're trying to accomplish, but you don't always need that. I think this is a great example of having something a little bit more
Down to earth.
Down to earth.
Just received this Sweetwater 2424 DF in the shop today. We're gonna be getting rid of the old docking lights, doing some new slimline ones that are mounted in there. We're gonna remove the trolling motor. That's not gonna be going back on. We're gonna take off all this nasty carpet. We're gonna put some new Infinity woven vinyl down. It's gonna be portable vinyl decking color lead. It's gonna be really sharp with this. We're gonna do brand new skins all the way around. They're gonna get a new graphic package as well. We're gonna do some matching MC numbers to the graphic colors as well. In the back, they've got a bunch of storage lockers and hatches that are currently wrapped in carpet. We will take all of that, rip the carpet off, and also install the woven vinyl on that as well. So there'll be no carpet left on this boat. It's not going to absorb water. It's super easy to clean. You're going to be able to wipe up spills. It's not going to absorb down into it like carpet. It's going to create value for the boat as well. It's going to give it that new modern look.
Let's play through this real quick because this is where we can end it.
Oh, sure.
We're looking forward to talking.
Awesome.
And then it jumps right in. So, fun fact about this video, this has 54,000 views on YouTube. And we looked at the most played parts, and people are going to the before and afters at the end and the price comparison that we put in there. And as it shows you, that's what people are the most interested in. So maybe to someone who's not into boats, this is boring. But if you got a boat and you love your boat and you want to make it look nice, you're going to watch this entire piece because you're going to go, I want that to be mine. So it just shows you how important this type of content is to think about what does your consumer want to see and how can you present that to them.
And I mean, even when we were working with this particular client, we encouraged them to do the money comparison, put that in there. And they were a little weary at first, but we're like, that's going to be the best way that you drive your point home of how affordable this is.
Yeah, we did push that one.
And funny enough, what's the number one place that people go back to in this video? It's that breakdown slide right there. So don't underestimate how powerful that information can be, because again, if we're in the stage that we're ready to make a decision, it's not weird to talk about money. We need to talk about the investment. And so this was a really great way to win that buyer's trust. And if they've watched this video already, they're going to be primed to have the money conversation later on, and they're not going to experience that type of sticker shock, especially if we've kind of visually compared them to what it could cost if they bought a new pontoon. So, I mean, I think the reason people love this video is it's more of that like HGTV style, but also just sort of that casual, very YouTube friendly content. And so the 54,000 views you see right here, that's all organic. They didn't pay a single cent to push that video. And we also repurposed this video, or encouraged them to, into a blog post on their website. So it was kind of like a before and after transformation. And so that's really important because it drives the traffic directly to their website. And I'm sure they've seen some organic SEO points for that as well. So, you know, great examples of videos for the decision phase. And so let's talk about how to make these videos really effective. So as Cooper was saying, this is so important at this stage. I know we've talked about the story of your customer, but you have to put a face to your brand at this point. So while it's important to anchor around your customer's story as they move along in that buyer's journey, it's really important for them to see and hear from the people that they're going to be working with, especially if you're a service-based business. So incorporating more talking head style videos or B-roll footage that showcases your team working with clients, you know, giving us an insight on what does it look like to work with you. It's a really excellent way to build trust. Remember, people are always going to connect with people, and your customers want to know who they're going to be working with if they decide to move forward with you.
Well, it seemed like back in the day, corporations were very big into hiring their, actors and not using any of their people. And it was a faceless company. And I think as a whole, business has kind of began to move away from that, but just continuing to lean into that. There's so many times where now we're not hiring as much talent because the business wants to use their own people, as
And we
they
encourage
should.
that.
And we encourage that because it's just more authentic. And again, people don't want to do business with a faceless company. People do business with people. We connect with people. And so as much as you can present that, that's going to help convert people ultimately.
Like there's a reason that Apple puts Tim Cook in front of everything, and he's on their big, you know, announcement events and that kind of stuff. Like he can sometimes be a quirky speaker, you know what I mean? Does he come across perfect all the time? Absolutely not. But it's because all of us know that we know he's driving the vision behind that brand. We trust him, you know. Same with they're placing their engineers into that entire thing. They could easily hire an actor to do all of that, but it just wouldn't be authentic. And so
I didn't think I saw a Capital One commercial about AI, and it ended with like their head of AI engineering or whatever talking to you. He was obviously scripted in this point, but just there's value in showing your team and being like, no, this guy's the one behind it, and he's the one that cares, and he's the one that's going to make sure it happens.
Well, it's the same thing. Like we just flew Delta not too long ago, and they show you the video before your plane takes off. Who ends that video?
The CEO.
Their CEO. There's these nice looking people all throughout, you know, and not that he's not, but you know, obviously they felt it was important to anchor that video with their leadership. So, you know, the big brands are doing it, and yours should absolutely be doing the same thing too. And I think it's even more important that you're doing that, because you're just going to have that more personal touch point. And then finally, and I know Angelique and her team can jump on this too, but do not, just because you have a video does not mean you're going to win the sale. And we talk about this with clients all the time. Video is a really powerful way to get people into your funnel, but you have got to put just as much emphasis on your landing page, the sales conversations you're having, and every single other touch point that you're having in that process. We've seen a lot of brands, like we'll deploy video content and they'll get massive amounts of engagement and even click-throughs on this video content, but the landing page isn't converting any leads. That's an issue with the landing page.
Yeah, so that's not our video's fault. We did our job. We got them where they needed to be.
But that shows you that it's not enough. You have to hire really smart people like Angelique and her team who can format that landing page in a way that it does convert sales, who can talk to your sales team about what conversation are you having next and how are you having that conversation. And then finally, we've already touched on this too. It's really important that you have a visual aesthetic to your content, and that's consistent throughout the buyer's journey. So yeah, on that next slide, Angelique, this is what it kind of looks like when you deploy the entire collection of content at every stage. So of course, in the awareness stage, we have our 5 commercials right there.
Those are all 15 to 20 seconds.
Yep, those are all like, I think one of them 60 seconds, but the rest of them are more bite-sized, that 20 to 30 second range.
And they're hyper-focused on a selling point. That's it.
So this entire campaign is aimed at selling a credit card processing service. So in the main video, we might touch on all the different value propositions, from we don't lock you into contracts, we give you your money the next day, our customer service is really great. But then in the next more bite-sized videos, we repurpose that footage that you saw, and we create these smaller videos that then just hyper-target on the fast deposits, hyper-target on the customer service, the no long-term contracts, the flat rate pricing. And then moving on from there, we have more softer touch points in the consideration phase where we can have a little bit more of like culture inspired content. And then of course, some more in-depth product explainer videos. And then finally, that FAQ video we all watched, okay, what are those last little questions that they're going to have before we can convert them into a buyer? And that's where that FAQ video. And of course, as you can see, this all follows the same color scheme. It looks like a family of content. It's highly branded, and that is the most effective way to deploy all of that. And that translated into the client's landing pages and email sequences as well. It used the same colors. It used the same imagery.
And I'll say this wasn't by accident, you know, and we also didn't do this separately. It was one big campaign. I want to push credit card processing, and all of this was created in tandem. So a lot of times companies are trying to save a buck and they're like, well, I just want to start with this and I'll do this. And sometimes, hey, that's what you have to do. But if you really do have a bigger vision, you want the most impact, tackling all of this at once is going to cost a bit more. But overall, it actually will save you money. Because if you were to come back and try to do these individually, that's way more production days, way more editing time. So when you can bundle things together, it actually does save you money in the long run.
And who doesn't want to
Awesome.
save money?
It does.
All right, so need some video ideas? I know everyone who's joined us today is probably really excited at the prospect of video, but maybe you don't really know how to get started with video. Sometimes you just need an idea. Well, you've come to the right place. We're going to quickly show you dozens of different ideas for how you could start utilizing video today within your business. We'll be sending this presentation as a reminder, so don't feel like you have to jot anything down. It's all here for you. So marketing and sales is what people most commonly are going to think of when you think of video for your business. It's a lot more than just advertising, though. Look at this slide, see just how many different things you could do. My team finds that one of the most powerful videos you can create is a testimonial. Like Coldbox was saying, absolutely, testimonials help sell your product. It gets people to talk genuinely about your product or service. It makes it easier for new customers to connect, and they learn to trust your brand. An area that not many people may consider video for, but absolutely it's relevant, is going to be HR and internal communications. It's not just for external use. There's so much you can do to streamline your internal processes, including training videos to get your team up to speed. Do you have something to say?
No, I agree.
Another area that people don't necessarily think of for video, but absolutely it's applicable: customer service. Once you got a customer, video can help keep them engaged and happy. The sales process doesn't end after you close that deal. You're always going to want to work on delighting your customers. Try an act of gratitude video for a new customer to help create that bond that's going to keep them coming back for more. Tracy and Cooper touched on this a little bit, but yup, if you've got a website, you're probably going to want video interacting in some way on that website. Any modern marketing strategy should include your website, and there are going to be lots of opportunities to use that video within your website. Our favorite usage is absolutely that homepage video. What Cooper and Tracy were talking about in the very beginning of this presentation, they look for that video that they can click on that kind of summarizes everything so they don't have to read. Yep, the homepage is a great place for that. We also touched a little bit on social. Now, when you think of a social video, don't think of just one thing. You can see this slide here has a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of different platforms, and different things are going to be applicable on different platforms. The statistics showed video on social media is pretty important. It can be hard to think of what type of content to create, so here's a list. And again, Tracy and Cooper have done a really good job of covering the buyer's journey, but brand affinity, that's once you've kind of engaged with your customer, these are the videos that let you dig a little bit deeper. They have ideas for that brand affinity. Something like a web series where you're regularly posting content, it's engaging with your audience over and over again so that they are going to think of you as top of mind when they think of that specific product or service. All right, so that was a long list, guys. Again, we're going to send the presentation, so if you need some ideas, they're all there. I wanted to touch a little bit on DIY versus the pros. Obviously, Tracy and Cooper are the pros. If you want a really polished final product, yep, they're going to help you get there. But that's not to say you have to use professionals to get into using video for your business. So when should you go pro versus doing it yourself? If you have the budget. If you don't have the budget, there are DIY ways that you can do it. A really organic iPhone video is still content that could work for your social channels. Think through the messaging, of course. Don't just post anything, but get started with video. Don't just go, oh, well, I don't have the budget, so I can't do it. When you're not sure what to do to get the job done, videographers have a proven track record and have experience and expertise. They're going to portray your organization the way you intended. A professional has a trained eye, artistic flair, and they're going to provide you with something that's not only high quality, but pleasing to look at. And then the last thing is, of course, equipment. So again, it's not that you can't use your iPhone to shoot a video, but if you want a more professional grade video and you don't have the equipment, that's going to be an opportunity again to use a professional. They've got high quality equipment, multiple HD cameras, lighting kits, the audio and microphones, and of course, final editing software. So if you need professional quality, yeah, you're probably going to want to go pro. As far as the DIY approach, again, technology has made it incredibly easy to create decently high quality videos from your computer and phone. Sorry, did you have something to say?
No, I think this is, I love it. I mean, I was going to say, like, honestly, Instagram Reels, TikToks, like, even for that awareness stage, those can be your perfect little sizzle videos. So,
Yep. So lower production quality still has a place within a video strategy. It's all over the internet. People are used to seeing it. So if you've got an idea, don't let lack of budget or lack of equipment hold you back, is kind of where I'm going with it. So even high quality brands, one of the examples we've got here, it's a Macy's video. They've got budget, they've got access to all of the equipment that they could possibly need, and they still are choosing to do a lower kind of quality video because it's really engaging with the audience for the platform that they were posting it on. So there's a time and a place, guys.
I wanted to add one more thing. I was the one who kind of picked out some of these. The first one was a woman who makes the dolls. So, you know, and it just seems like it could have been shot from a phone, who knows? But it seemed very, you know, welcoming. You felt like you could, you know, hear about her story and why she's making these dolls, and it felt very authentic. The second one is Playmakers, which is a store in Okemos, Michigan, where they're all about, you know, running and equipment for running and athletics. And they have like a Sunday shoe review, you know, so they make it a common, you know, routine that they'll always produce this video. And again, it's nothing high end, but people find it valuable. And then the third one was elderly music. It's in Old Town in Lansing, and they're what's in the case. And they have also kind of a series, and they show you the case, and then they open it up and show you the guitar and tell the story of the guitar. So I wanted to give examples to people of, yes, there are times when it is absolutely appropriate to shoot something more, you know, from your phone, something that doesn't feel high production, that because I'm often the one running the ads on social media, and those videos, they definitely get attention, they get clicks, and they get views. So, you know, you don't forget that these are tools that you can use. And actually, we had a question about something like this. If you are going to shoot on a phone, what are some tips to make the footage, you know, at least look decent? You know, we don't want it to look so dark that you can't see it. So just curious about, you know, Tracy and Cooper, do you have any tips for folks doing a little bit of DIY?
yeah, for sure. I think even just to add to what you're saying, we've even had brands approach us and they want to shoot professional video and deploy it in Instagram Reels, and we tell them no. Because we just don't think that that's a good idea. That's not how people are digesting content on those platforms, and it's not what they expect. So honestly, with TikToks, with Reels, with stories, there are absolutely times where your organic content, your ability to produce your own content, is going to outperform professional looking video, because that's what people want on those platforms. Mm-hmm. So when you're shooting video on your phone, there's a difference between shooting it for a TikTok and an Instagram reel, and then for, like, if you're just going to do like a talking head or a customer testimonial because you just have more of a DIY budget. I'll speak to the Instagram reel and you can kind of speak to the other end of it. So if you're shooting for an Instagram reel, first of all, make sure you're holding your phone this way, not this way, because that's how that content is optimized. But I think for reels and stuff, the cleverness is playing off of pick your music track first, and then find what are the fun like drops in that music tracks where you can cut on content. And you can even watch other reels that have used similar music tracks, so you can kind of see what they did too. But make sure that you're timing your camera cuts, so going from one shot to the next shot on the music. And then the second thing would be like do more fun big camera movements. What I mean by that is maybe you're like focused on something and then you do kind of like a whip transition and then that whips into the next thing, or we're coming down and then pushing in, or we're coming off of a plant to the side. So just trying to think of what could be more of those dynamic camera movements. And then when you're watching the reel back, make sure you're putting two clips together and then you're previewing it, and then putting the next clip and then previewing it. Because what you don't want is for something to, if it feels jarring, see how you can tweak and smooth that out. So if those two cuts don't go together really well and it feels like it's jumping too much or something feels odd about it, try again. So really cutting on the music and having more dynamic camera movements are great. And of course, good principles of filming always is just making sure that you have really decent lighting and that sort of thing. But if you want to speak to that,
if you're trying to do like
I was going to say another consideration is background. So nobody wants to see you in like your bathroom. If you've got like a clean backdrop or something like a bookshelf that's kind of cleaned up, just consider what your background is. And to the point of lighting, if you can have more than one light source, and always make sure you're not backlit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just the basic principles. The big thing is just lighting, sound. Make sure your the phone is propped on something. It's not going to be super wobbly. I know they make microphones that you can plug into your phone and actually get halfway decent audio, as opposed to just the built-ins. Yeah, lighting, looking where you're at, using windows to your advantage, not being backlit.
Holding your
phone sideways if it's going to be a talking head or something, not going to a vertical, Instagram story.
Yeah, if it's a video that you plan on publishing on YouTube and then putting on your website, or Vimeo and then putting on your website, holding your phone like this instead of this, this is going to make the image look really slim and it's just not going to be so friendly to watch. So you really want to make sure you're holding your phone like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of the.
It's like, do you any equipment in yourself?
So the next question is, do you recommend any equipment or editing software to make the video look better? So as far as like software, I mean, of course, if you're making reels and TikToks, there's a built-in editor for that. If you're wanting to use an editor for like putting videos to Vimeo or YouTube, of course, if you're a Mac user, you probably have iMovie. That's a nice editor. There's also, I'm sure Angelique and her team can speak to this too. Like, I know that Canva even has like a built-in editor now. So there's traditional editing software like what we use.
And we're probably not the best people to answer that.
Yeah, but can be really like time consuming and that kind of thing. But there are more friendlier options out there through Canva. I think Camtasia, some of those others too.
Actually a HubSpot recommended one. So because this is the HubSpot user group, I'm gonna promo that one. It's called Descript, and I'll put that in chat. Descript. And it's free to download. It's really, really easy to use. The HubSpot user groups actually do video boot camps, and that's the software that they train all of the attendees on. So really cool, easy to use. I recommend anyone in marketing download it because it's so easy to use.
Love it.
A couple
so
of
it looks like we have another question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
she says,
yeah, go ahead.
What's your number one tip working with a professional video team? And then what are some important questions to ask when hiring a professional videographer? Do you want to kind of tackle this?
There's a lot that kind of goes into it. I feel like the two main things that we always talk about, at least for us, is there's two sides to video. There is the strategy and the messaging and the story of what you're saying, what you're trying to accomplish. And then there's the execution. And so many times companies are better at one or the other. Maybe they only focus on messaging, but they don't know how to make a good looking video, or you get a beautiful video, but you get done and you go, what was that? What am I even supposed to do? I don't understand what that was even trying to tell me, which both failed. So I think the biggest thing is just what is their emphasis, and do they put just as much effort into the pre-production, the planning, the messaging, as well as cameras and lights and camera movement and what that says and all of that type of stuff. So that's the interesting thing of video is it's art meets science and meets marketing. So there's a lot of components going on.
But also too, if you're going to be hiring a professional, you have got to work with someone that actually understands what you do and is willing to understand what you do, because you are trusting them to communicate that in the most powerful way to your potential customers. So if you're getting into the process and you're constantly feeling like, oh, you guys just aren't getting it, that's just not what we do, that's going to be a really frustrating experience for you. And honestly, I would say like the number one compliment we get all the time is, oh my gosh, I'm so impressed with how much you guys get it, even with the more complex things, because we thoughtfully take the time in the beginning to understand the ins and outs, where someone might not take that kind of time. So because it's about communication, it's really important that the person you're trusting to doing the communicating understands what they're talking about and is representing that in an accurate way.
And one thing to like also go on with that is professional video is not cheap, and just understanding that it's an investment, and that you, as long as you're working with a reputable company that knows what they're doing, you're going to get value out of it. You know, there's a reason, you know, a freelance videographer is a lot cheaper than a full production house, because it's just one person that knows how to operate a camera and can show up and film something, where, you know, we're able to come alongside and guide on such a bigger, higher level and create something that's more than just what exists normally on its own. So just understanding that it's an investment, you will see long-term returns on it and gains. And there is a lot of knowledge and just even equipment. We have just tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that just goes into it. So it's like, it's more than even just me showing up and filming. It's more than just the ideas. It's literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of infrastructure it takes to produce this level of quality that I don't think people always think about what it really takes to bring it to fruition.
Yeah, so I would get really crystal clear on like, what are the package inclusions and what can I expect from that, you know, and really just trying to vet like how well they understand what you're saying to make sure that they're really on the same page. And of course, any great video company is going to have examples of their work. So if they can provide you examples that are closely aligned with what you're looking for, that's a great way to build trust as well.
Great questions. Do we have any other questions? We are a little over time, so I'm trying to be respectful of everyone's time here.
Totally.
I think
all right. Well, I'm going to move on. Yeah. We are going to send out this presentation. If everybody could just take a minute to fill out the MPS survey, we're always interested to know how we did, what we could do better. And we've got everyone's information for how you can connect with us, Coldbox, InVerve, and of course, HubSpot Academy. And then save the date, guys, September 6th, 2022 at 10 a.m. We will be having the next hug. Topic is still TBD. If you have a topic that you would like us to cover, happy to hear it and dive into that for you. I'd like to take a minute and thank Cooper and Tracy for taking the time today to let us kind of see behind the curtain and hear a little bit more about video. Really interesting topic. I hope everyone got what they wanted out of today. Thanks, guys.
We appreciate you bringing us on.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.